All right, we've been explaining to you, the American people, what is now happening in our nation's capital in this massive effort to utterly destroy President Trump and throw him out of office. It is a plot to subvert the will of you, the American people, and undermine the very foundation of this republic. And it is unlike anything we have ever seen before in American history. Earlier today, at a news conference, President Trump, he addressed these unprecedented attacks. Watch.
I respect the move, but the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign, but I can always speak for myself and the Russians, zero. I think it divides the country. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things.
Months of coverage, zero evidence. The president's right. For example, let's look at all these Obama administration scandals. No special counsels. Benghazi, the IRS targeting conservatives, the General Services Administration, their spending scandal, Fast and Furious, Hillary Clinton's private email server, we know felonies were committed there, the Clinton Foundation, the pay-to-play scheme, remember, Uranium One, 20% going to Vladimir Putin in Russia, Bo Bergdahl, the Iranian prisoner swap, the VA scandal, Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton on the tarmac, that meeting, surveillance rules changes, James Rosen and journalists hacked, Solyndra, the Secret Service prostitution scandal, unaccompanied minors entering the U.S., Hurricane Sandy funds, healthcare.gov contracts. The threat against President Trump now is real. It is metastasizing into a clear and present danger. It's only going to get worse. Now, we're learning tonight that the DNC is now pumping money into what is being called, quote, the resistance summer. It's the left's plan to attack and obstruct the president at every turn. So, it's time for you, the American people, you irredeemable deplorables that went out and went to the rallies and voted for him. Time for you to stand up for what you wanted and what you voted for in November. As you heard me say, this is a choice election. Now, everything that you have voted for is under attack. You voted for the economy, you voted for millions of new jobs, you want people out of poverty, off of food stamps, and back in the labor force. You wanted lower taxes, you wanted tax reform. You voted to repeal and replace Obamacare. That process is now underway. You voted for a much stronger military, for a president that can actually say the words radical Islamic terrorism and defeating ISIS. You voted for energy independence. You voted for more control of education to be sent back to the states. You voted to cut government regulations and jobs. And most importantly, you voted to drain the swamp and upend the power structure in Washington, D.C. that has been failing you and the American people for decades. These forces that are working to unseat President Trump, they don't care about fixing the gigantic mess that President Obama left behind after 8 years of incompetence and failure. They don't care because they're inside this corrupt Washington cabal. They are the swamp. They prosper, Americans suffer. And that's why these groups, they don't care about the numbers that we showed you from the Obama administration from back during the campaign, night after night. The lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. Almost 95 million Americans out of the labor force. The worst recovery since the 1940s. Lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. 11 million more Americans on food stamps after Obama. 8 million more in poverty. 43 million total. 1 in 5 American families without anybody in the workforce. 1 in 6 American men, prime working years, 18 to 34, incarcerated or living home with mommy and daddy. And when President Obama left office, he had accumulated more debt than every other president before him combined. A guy that said $9 trillion in debt is irresponsible and unpatriotic. Now, these forces, they want to prevent the president from fixing this mess and improving your lives. And as we have been explaining on this show, there are 5 specific forces now working to take down the president. Let me explain in order in terms of the dangers that they represent. Number 1, the most dangerous, the deep state. Former FBI Director James Comey, obviously disgruntled, fired ex-employee, showing a vendetta now against the president. I guess he's angling for his multi-million-dollar book deal, a miniseries, primetime interviews, a movie, and probably wants to work for MSNBC. Now, we've seen the deep state working around the clock, undermining, sabotaging, and leaking which hurts, and hopefully in their case, they want to destroy the president. The deep state must be purged, and we've got to get rid of the people that are now the biggest threat to this republic and, of course, the free election of Donald Trump. Number two, the Destroy Trump media. They're the second worst in this alliance, if you will. The purveyors of fake news and bizarre tinfoil hat conspiracy theories with no evidence, collusion, Russia, none whatsoever. Now, these propagandists, these liars, breathlessly pushing one manufactured scandal after another. Why? Hoping that just one of their constant smears against the president sticks and will lead to his downfall. And, of course, you have the Democrats. They've been totally unhinged since November 9th. Now, they've been attacking and obstructing the president at every turn because they can't accept the election results of you, the American people. Then, of course, you can always count on those very same establishment Republicans, you know, the ones that were afraid they may be accused of shutting down the government, the people that never supported President Trump, even though they're in the same party, never supported his agenda. Well, now they're dragging their feet to implement what you voted for. Just look at Senator John McCain. This is a disgrace. He's now saying that this Comey witch hunt is reaching the point where it's Watergate in terms of its size and scale. No, Senator, it's not. And you should know better. And number five, then you have the never-Trumpers, the least impactful, groups like National Review, the Weekly Standard, people who never thought or wanted Trump to win. They would have preferred Hillary pick the next Supreme Court justice. But now they want vindication and relevance. Make no mistake, this is now about overriding an election, the election results, the will of the American people. This now combined is undermining our democratic process, not only trying to delegitimize the president, but trying to effectively stop him from doing what he promised to do. Now, why are they doing it? Their own selfish reasons. They, of course, they want to cling to power. Isn't it always about power in Washington? Now, President Trump is the biggest existential threat to the way things have been working there. So it's really the swamp versus the people. And the swamp is fighting hard. Here's my question for all of you tonight, the American people, you irredeemable deplorables that cling to your God, guns, Bibles, and religion. Are you going to help the president that you elected? And as hard as you fought during the election, you better understand that if you want those changes that you voted for, that you went out and fought for, well, you better fight harder now, or the country will deteriorate even further. And America's precipitous decline will not stop. Here with reaction.